Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5th week of the Poppycock and GamersSphere pod. I almost fucked that up. GamersSphere podcast. This is a joint podcast between the two websites, so you can check us both out at GamersSphere.com and PoppycockReviews.com. But first, I want to go ahead and thank our sponsor, AllKeyShop.com. That's A-L-L-K-E. Jesus Christ. A-L-L-K-E-Y. Shop.com. They're our sponsor this week, and we'd like to give them some big thanks. Huge shout out to them for sponsoring us. But as always, we're going to go ahead and kick off the podcast with introducing ourselves. So this week, I'm going to go ahead and start because I never do, and I always feel awkward trying to get somebody else to do it first. So my name is Zach LeBeau. I am I'm not a writer anymore. I'm an editor now. I am second editor-in-chief over at Poppycock Reviews, as well as manager of their YouTube channel. Like I said, I'm from the Poppycock review side of things. So why don't we go ahead and get somebody else who's GamerSphere in here. So how about John? Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, this is John Hitz from GamersSphere.com. I am the founder and editor-in-chief for the site. Let's hope that you all like this podcast. And well, just for you to know, we have enabled our Q&A features on this chat so that if you have any questions, you can ask us, or you can do it through Twitter by using the hashtag AskJSPCR.
Alrighty, so there you go. That's John for you. And then why don't we go back over to the Poppycock side of things? No, you know what? I don't want Cassie to introduce herself. Jimmy is finally back. Jimmy is back this week, so we're going to go ahead and get him to introduce himself. How you doing, Jimmy?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good, man. My name's Jimmy, and I like video games.
If you guys can't understand him, make sure that you just let us know, and we can give you a transcript of everything. Because I know he's got that thick accent, and I don't want you guys to miss something.
I've been from the northern side of things.
Oh, that's north. Okay, I thought that was a southern accent, but what the fuck do I know, right?
It's northern southern.
Northern
southern.
That totally makes sense.
I live in the equator.
Yeah, he got taught to speak by his sister/mom because he was raised in West Virginia, right? All right, so back over to the GamerSphere. Why don't we go ahead and get a Gasicles, or a Glassicles, I'm sorry, to introduce himself. Glassicles, damn it, I fucked it up. I had it, and then I fucked it up. I messed it up. I had it. Just introduce yourself. I'm mad.
You're good, man. Third time's the charm. Hey, everybody, this is Agasicles. I am a PlayStation, PC games, and hardware reviews editor over on GamerSphere.
There you go. And then back to Cassie. Who are you, Cassie? We don't know who you are.
I thought you didn't want to introduce me.
Nah, I didn't want you to introduce you first, because I didn't want you to have too much power. I didn't want you to feel too important, you know?
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Cassie. I'm the editor-in-chief of PoppycockReviews.com and one of the co-founders. Yeah, I like video games, and be sure to check us out on PoppycockReviews.com and check out our YouTube channel, which we're trying to update a lot more at youtube.com/PoppycockReviews.
Breaking news, Cassie likes video games. And now back over to Ryan. Ryan's going to go ahead and introduce himself, unless he dropped from the call because of his crappy stork-carried internet. Oh, there he is. Hey, introduce yourself, Ryan.
I'm still here. I'm still good. I'm Ryan, work at GamerSphere. I'm a writer there. Focus more on the PlayStation side. Like Cassie, breaking news, love video games. Fuck, shocking. That's it. Great to be part of the podcast. Good to be here. Let's get on with it.
Good to have you, Ryan. And with that, we're going to go ahead and kick off our first topic. This was a pretty slow week in gaming, and this is probably the biggest story that I saw, at least. The fact that Facebook bought Oculus Rift for, I think, $200 million, was it? $200 million? $2
billion.
$2 billion. They bought Oculus Rift for $2 billion, guys. Now, there's a huge rift on the internet. We don't know. Get it? Because Oculus Rift, and there's a rift on it because each side. Okay, anyway. So, Oculus, there's a lot of people loving this. No, there's nobody. There's really nobody loving this. Everybody hates this, that Facebook bought Oculus Rift. How do you guys feel about it?
Well, to be totally honest, Oculus people are happy about it.
Well, that's a complete lie. Nobody's happy about it. No, say, well, why are they happy about it, John? Because all I've heard is negative stuff about it. So why are the Oculus Rift people
No,
happy about it?
but I mean the staff.
Oh no, yeah, the staff.
They're
They just got paid $2 billion. I'd be pretty fucking happy too.
I'd quit. That's why I'd be happy, because I'd be able to quit.
I'm surprised that more of them haven't left. Like, honestly, if it were me and I just got $2 billion, I'd be like, all right, deuces, I'm out. Like, I'll take my $500 million share and then jet with that. Like,
Exactly.
I'll get going
Go
here.
sleep. I'm gonna go sleep. I'm gonna go home and sleep. That's all I'm gonna do.
I'm gonna play video games for the rest of my life all day, every day.
So I think the
I didn't really want to
John,
but
John,
why did Facebook actually acquire it though? What were the reasons for it? I mean,
That's a
What are they
really
gonna do?
good idea.
so well,
Facebook wants to have like a hardcore gaming part of them added into it.
They want to make a realistic Farmville. No.
Yeah, realistic Farmville.
First person Farmville. That's
They-
Minecraft. Like,
They basically want us to be able to experience ads on virtual reality, you know?
well,
so
from
you
a-
mean like Candy Crush on steroids?
Well, from a
Pretty
business
much.
perspective, it really makes a lot of sense for Facebook to do this because it's a market that is basically untapped. And what Facebook did was they took something that, like with the Facebook itself, they took something that, like MySpace, they took something that was it was relatively young. It was very young in the industry. They took it, they made it their own, they cleaned it up, they perfected it, and now everybody's on Facebook. So with this, it's kind of another opportunity to do that. It's really young. It's like infancy stages in the virtual reality market. Like Sony is apparently doing their
Yeah.
Project Morpheus whatnot, but it's a very, very young market. So it really makes sense for them to acquire this, and they have so much room to grow. Like the potential this is a relatively small investment for the potential that this can possibly bring.
So, but
But
I don't
actually-
think their intention is to invest it directly in this market. It's an untapped market that has huge payoff implications within the social media and social networking core competency that Facebook specializes in long term. So when you think about VR, I believe what Facebook's intention is to prop the Rift up, get that market going, get a very good technical implementation in place, and then leverage that VR technology into the social networking space.
I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely.
Think about Facebook Messenger being done over VR.
That is.
Think
That you
about
hit the
all-
nail on the head with that. You absolutely did because they said that they're gonna, they want it to be. They're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be like a hardcore gaming. Like they're gonna be their own separate, independent thing within Facebook. They're gonna do their own thing. Once it's built up, then that's when they're gonna hit us with the integration with all this different social networking stuff.
The other thing I want to mention, going back to what John said at the beginning of the conversation, with about the Oculus Rift people are happy. So I would extend that beyond just the staff, and I think and not to be a Debbie Downer, but I mean I think it's very easy, particularly in our internet-based world where negativity is reigns supreme, to kind of poo-poo this whole thing and say that everybody hates this deal. I think the reality is there are lots of people who are fans of the Oculus Rift technology and what it's going to potentially bring to gaming, who are very excited about a multi-billion-dollar company now backing that technology instead of the kind of, ragtag would be a slightly disingenuous term, but for the purpose of conversation, a very small ragtag group of engineers who are trying to get this thing off the ground.
Yeah.
See, why be excited for something when it's just so easy to hate on the internet? You can
Exactly.
you can be so mean so easily.
Exactly.
Being happy is no fun.
Yeah, I don't know. My initial knee-jerk reaction is that I don't like this. I'm not very excited about it. That's my initial knee-jerk reaction, and I posted a Facebook status. I was like, as soon as I found out, I was like, oh, Facebook is buying Oculus Rift. Looks like I won't be buying one. That's just
Let me ask you guys this, and it's somewhat of a loaded question. So, my big thing about everything that's going on with VR is who cares, right? I mean, the thing.
Blasphemy.
The thing that frustrates me about this is, to me, VR is to gaming the same way in which 3D TVs were. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people, including media, journalists, and a certain very small subsector of the gaming industry who are trying to seemingly forcibly convince everyone that this is something they need to be excited about. And I'm like, nope, don't care. I don't want to. I don't want to game for hours with a headset on my head. See, I'm wearing glasses, so much like 3D, I'm not interested in any technology that requires me to put anything over my face or head in order for me to enjoy it. So I don't know. I mean, this Morpheus, all the other VR stuff, I'm just not interested in it until it's a fully capable technology.
Well, in here, if you actually are up to date on this information, well, the same day in which Facebook bought Oculus Rift, um, people that backed up the project on Kickstarter started to demand for the people at Oculus to give a refund for all that money that they gave. We actually talked a little bit on this on one of our articles this week, and well, in here the idea is that well, the Oculus started as a Kickstarter project.
Hmm.
They got 9,500 people backing them up. So without the money that people donated in there, they wouldn't have gotten to a point in which they have been getting money. This, even though Facebook bought the company, it is not the first time in which a company has invested in them. It is the fourth time because before Facebook they had gotten over 100 million dollars to develop their project. Now people is basically um, enraged because they kind of see this as betraying them. They donated for the Oculus people to bring that product. They didn't even release the product. They sold themselves to
Yeah.
another company for them to finish the project.
See, that's I read a lot of people online were saying that, or I read an article about how people were demanding refund. Right, I don't agree with that whatsoever. And the problem is that the Kickstarter wasn't for the company. They weren't backing the company. They were backing the product. The company got bought by Facebook.
Yeah.
So it's got nothing to do with the product. I mean, the product is still being developed for. It's still, and all those people backing the product. I want to say, I mean, I'm like 90% sure that the promise from the Kickstarter was the dev kits, and if I'm not mistaken, the dev kits were already sent out.
That's true, but seeing it on a larger scale, it is well known that when it comes to gaming as a whole and Facebook, it is not a successful move for any developer of anything gaming to be bought by Facebook. Some developers went and they started to try out and develop games for Facebook itself, only for Facebook. They did pretty well at the beginning, but long term, they ended up pretty bad.
See, but that's where I think that there's like a fundamental difference between those people and then this Oculus Rift situation. I mean, like I was saying, like my initial, knee-jerk reaction is this is bad because of all the things that you just said. But I mean, after inspecting it a little bit further, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I'm still hesitant. I'm still reserved. I'm reserved in my expectations, but I don't think it's as bad of a move as I initially did think because they're getting this backing by Facebook, huge multi-billion-dollar company. They just got they have a huge amount of money to keep working on this product, and they're still an independent part of Facebook. They're completely independent. They're focusing on their market. The guy who runs Oculus Rift even said that if Facebook ever starts to ask too much or require too much, if it requires you to sign into Facebook, whatnot, that he's going to back out. He's going to leave the company, which down the road, long term, that's probably going to happen because Facebook needs to get a return on this somehow, and they're going to integrate it socially, like Mr. Glassicles was saying over there. But that's going to be long term. Short term, I feel like this is potentially a good thing because they have the backing of a multi-billion-dollar company. They're still independent, and they're still doing what they set out to do in the beginning, just with more money this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rumor is that Farmville VR HD should be launching sometime around 2017.
Oh, absolutely. Of course. I can't wait for that. I'm buying that day one. But actually, going back to the question that you asked before, you were asking if we care about VR, and I actually do really care about VR. Once again, I'm still reserved. Like I was saying before, I'm not getting my hopes up too high, but there's a huge potential for this. Like VR has been tried, it's been done in the 80s and stuff, and they tried to get it going, all this stuff. It never took off, blah blah blah. But I feel like now technology has gotten to the point where it is good enough for this to work. With the Oculus Rift, it started off small, the Kickstarter project and everything, and I've seen people, I've said this before, but I've seen people who were, didn't want anything to do with VR, just nope, not going to work, don't want it, don't think it's going to work in the market, I don't care about it. I've seen them go try out the Oculus headset and come out, and they're like, okay, this is really cool, and I'm really excited for it. I really want to see where they go with it. Project Morpheus, they've got Sony's VR now. Enough companies are putting enough effort into this that game developers, they have the incentives now to work for it. You saw how many people, 950,000 people backed it on Kickstarter, not to mention all the people who don't even know about Kickstarter but are would buy this headset. Like, there's a lot of potential. There's a huge market there, and it gives incentives for the developers to do something with. I mean, granted, you kind of have to develop specifically for this and nothing else. You can't really play a console game. I mean, there are ways, but it's kind of difficult. So while you do have to develop specifically for this, if there's a big enough install base, developers will make things for it.
So here's my challenge, and I'm not saying this stuff to start an argument. I think there's a lot of heat behind the VR. There's a lot of heat around the VR conversation that is based on some degree of falsehood. Meaning, what I mean by that is in that it doesn't fully reflect reality, right?
Now, what things in particular are you talking about?
So everyone who goes, so let's think about our normal gaming use cases, right? How we actually use our gaming devices and peripherals in reality. So I don't know how everybody else does theirs, but my personal use cases. Normally, whenever feasible, if I'm going to sit down and game, I'm going to sit down and game for a 2-hour block of time. No one that I've heard or no one that I've seen, nobody in the press who's covering the Rift has gone in under that use case. Those guys are going in and they're using the Rift for a fairly limited amount of time. Then let's talk about game types. Now talk about playing a first-person shooter, or let's talk about playing Madden from first-person perspective using a Rift for a 2-hour block of time. A game of Madden is, and again, I don't know how everybody plays, but a game of Madden roughly runs you 40 minutes to an hour, right? So are you going to sit down, and if you're trying to play competitive seasons, now you've got a 16-game season, so really sitting down and playing Madden, arguably on a weekend, you really need to put in 4 hours of time to get at least 4 games in, right? Or try and speed through them faster, whatever. My point is that we're talking about taking this technology and applying it in a way that the media is not really covering in terms of how it's going to be used in reality. So there, I find the application of the technology to just be very questionable in terms of how it's being covered in the press right now.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It has to be done right. I mean, you can't, like you were saying, you can't take a game of Madden. I feel like Madden is kind of a bad example, though, just because that's not really the type of game you would want, like a first-person type game. But I definitely see what you're saying. Like, they're getting a very limited amount of time, and I mean, I've seen articles where they've said, we haven't had enough time to sit down with this,
Yeah.
And I've seen concerns, people saying, if you're sitting down for 2 hours, whatnot, is it going to be comfortable? Would you want to sit with this thing on your face for 2 hours?
Exactly.
But I feel like with the Oculus Rift, it's like I'm saying it's got a lot of potential. I'm not saying that those are all valid concerns. Those are extremely valid. I'm worried about those as well. but I think they can overcome those challenges. That's where I'm sitting. I'm on the other side of the fence where I think I see all the challenges. I'm still worried about them. I don't right now. I'm sitting here like, okay, if I'm sitting here gaming for 2-3 hours, do I want to sit with how much does it weigh? Do I want to sit with it on my face? Do I want to keep looking around? Am I gonna get a headache doing this shit? Like, I'm still reserved on it, and I'm still waiting. I'm gonna see when it comes out and try it out and see for myself how I'd like it. But from what I've seen, I feel like they can overcome those challenges, and I feel like developing experiences singly for the Oculus is the way to go. Because if you have like a like you use the example of Madden, so I'm gonna use the example of Call of Duty. If you had a Call of Duty game, that's a first-person shooter. I mean, if you're playing Call of Duty, that's a really fast a very fast arcade type shooter. Would you want to use that for that experience? I think that the best way to go is to make experiences specifically for the Oculus Rift and not for anything else.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there.
Yeah, I think for me and for a lot of people, I think the big thing is like they're not going to buy into it or be excited for it or whatever until they try it firsthand, because you can't. I mean, you can hear about it all day, but until you put it on, you're not gonna know if you like it or not. So I'm not, I'm excited for it just because I'm interested in, anything in the games industry. I don't know if I'm gonna buy one yet, but
it's like I can sit here and say, oh yeah, I've read all these people like it. I can sit here all day and say that, but I've never tried it, so I can't even really. I'm getting secondhand information, so it's like.
Yeah, until it launches, it has a $499 MSRP.
Oh shit! Yeah, there's the price point. The price point has to be right too. Holy shit!
Yeah. Another thing I'm going to be worried about it when it comes out is, well, I have crappy eyesight, so I need these glasses right here to see.
What if they came out with prescription Oculus Rift?
It'd be like $2,000.
Yeah, that'd be even more money. Hey, can you custom make my Oculus Rift with my prescription?
Absolutely, we can, sir. That'll be $2,000.
And then another concern is, does it fit over my glasses?
Yeah.
I believe what I've read, at least. I mean, I may be wrong. From what I've read, people with glasses, it has fit over there. Initially, it didn't. They not redesigned it, but they kind of modified it to fit glasses. But I think it really depends on. I mean, if you've got a really small head, glasses are going to be easy to fit over. But if you've got a larger head, and the Oculus Rift is it's only so big, your glasses might not fit over underneath it. So it really.
So I'm not going to be able to use the Oculus.
Absolutely not. No, I wouldn't even bother. Don't even bother weighing in on this conversation. You're out of this.
Well, no, see, me is I have the big rectangle glasses.
Yes, yeah, I saw that. See, you don't have the biggest head in the world, but your glasses are kind of thick. But another thing that I'm actually really excited for is the PlayStation Now service. They got PlayStation, Gaikai and all this stuff. They got a bunch of cloud-based services going on, and I think I read an article or I saw an article that Glassicles wrote about cloud-based gaming, and I'm actually really excited for the future of cloud-based gaming, and I wanted to know his opinion on it.
So first of all, Zach, I have to at this point anoint you as the segue master. So
hey,
you were almost completely through that sentence before I realized you were changing topics.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Do you have something else to say about the Oculus Rift?
No, because we could probably talk about that all day. So I think what Zach's alluding to is so the article that I posted actually was not quite about cloud gaming, but actually you could say it was about the opposite of cloud gaming.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was.
Right.
I apologize.
Yeah, that's right. Is locally enabled backwards compatibility. Earlier this week, and I don't recall the guy's name at all. Please, by all means, go to GamerSphere and read the article, and all that information is there.
GamerSphere.com. Read the article. Wink.
But there was an industry insider who tweeted, I guess about maybe 4 days ago, that Sony was hard at work enabling local backwards compatibility for the PlayStation 4 for at least PlayStation 2 games, and I believe also PlayStation 1 games. Some of the other media outlets picked up that it was also going to cover PlayStation 3, but what I wrote in the article is I just don't know that would be technically feasible since the cell processor. Right. Yeah. So at any rate, the article was about this capability being delivered, which would be analogous to the onboard enabled software emulation that was capable in the latter, I guess I should call them the middle generation PlayStation 3s, right? So
Yeah.
the launch window of PlayStation 3s had an actual Emotion Engine chip hardware on the PCB that enabled the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 backwards compatibility. Later generations dropped the hardware emulation capability and just did it all in software. And then the third generation of PlayStation 3s did away with it completely. So this would make it similar to the middle generation PlayStation 3 platform. And so the question that comes up, for those who are fans of all the news about cloud gaming and Sony's purchase of Gaikai, and actually Microsoft is also working on a cloud-based streaming delivery service for their legacy games also that would be enabled on the Xbox One. And actually, I think at a company All Hands earlier this year, I want to say in January, they actually displayed that technology running to their companies at that meeting, and inside word that got out of the meeting was that the games were running at 60 frames per second over a streaming service. So Microsoft is likely to have a cloud capability out there as well. But at any rate, what the article that I posted invokes is, are you interested in this locally based service, or are you fine with cloud gaming and does it matter? And similar to things we discussed in the Oculus, does it matter if it comes down via a software update, or are you going to have to be on a later generation SKU of the PlayStation 4 to get this backwards compatibility? I don't know. Inquiring minds want to know, I guess.
See, my thing was, I get why they're doing this. I can understand it. Like, you have a lot of people who want to play the old games, whatnot, but I don't really understand the reason. I don't understand what the reason is, that how they're going about it. Because they purchased Gaikai to do this cloud-based gaming where they can stream PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 2 games over via the internet, emulated locally somewhere else. Or not locally, I'm sorry. It was emulated in a server, and then it would be streamed to your PlayStation. They purchased an entire service specifically for this reason. So I don't understand now why they're also doing an emulation-based service locally on your PlayStation 4. Like, I think that it's awesome. I'm pretty excited about it. I would use it myself if the price was right, or if they had games that I wanted to play, whatnot. Which I'm PlayStation 2. I have a ton of PlayStation 2 games I want to play, but so I would definitely be interested in the service. But I'm already kind of set on PlayStation Now, where it's already it's that service, just cloud-based. So I don't understand why they're. I guess it's that thing, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, but at the same time, it's kind of a waste of money to purchase Gaikai. I feel like at that point, if you're just going to do it locally now, like, why even bother making PlayStation Now at all if you're just going to do it all locally?
Yeah, I'm not really sure either. I don't really see the motive.
Well, then also I can see it from a different angle, where a lot of people have been saying, PlayStation Now isn't going to have all the games because it is a streaming service, and not all developers are going to want to hop on that boat. So then maybe doing the local, software-based way is another way to get more PS2 games so that people can play.
See, but the way to get those developers to come over to PlayStation Now and to get a return on their purchase of Gaikai, the way to get them to come over is by getting people to sign up for PlayStation Plus, showing them that there is profit there, and then they come over and put their games on, then there's even more profit, and it's just, chain reaction, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like they're going about, if that's what they wanted to do, they're kind of going about it wrong. They should be trying to get developers to subscribe or to help out PlayStation Now and put their games onto that service instead of onto the locally based service, because once again they need a return for Gaikai. Sony isn't the most profitable company in the world, and I know their video game division is one of their more profitable departments within Sony, but they still need a return on Gaikai. I can't remember how much money they spent, but I know it was a lot of money. I guess a lot of money is relative to me. Everything's a lot of money for me. But
Zach, are you expecting that? Are you anticipating that access to the Gaikai enabled streaming service is going to be embedded in what we currently play now for PlayStation Plus, or do you think there's going to be an additional surcharge to access that service?
Well, the leak that there was a leak. I think it was last week or maybe earlier this week. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Like I don't know what that was all about. But I don't know if it was earlier this week or maybe last week. But I saw a leak that there was a photo from PlayStation Plus that the games had a rental fee or whatnot. So initially, I thought that if you had PlayStation Plus, you were going to be able to use this service, which I guess in hindsight that doesn't really make a lot of sense. I think PlayStation Now is going to, or no, I'm sorry. What I thought was that you have PlayStation Plus, and then separately you have a subscription to PlayStation Now. But what it seems like they're doing is that you have PlayStation Plus, and then PlayStation Now is basically a video game rental service where you pay money to rent the game for so long, the same way that you would a movie, whatnot, on PlayStation. You can rent it for a week at a time, a month, whatever. You can select the amount, and you pay per game that you do. It's not a subscription, is what I'm thinking that they're going to do. But I mean, like I said, having local emulation would really help with a lot of the latency issues that you would have with a cloud-based service. That's a lot of. I know they purchased Gaikai to do this and streamline it and perfect it. But you're never going to get rid of the latency. You're always going to have some lag from the time you hit the button to the time the person on the screen moves. And having locally based emulation is going to completely eradicate that. That's going to make it seamless integration. But I still don't. From a business perspective, it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to do it. From a consumer perspective, sure, I love it. Hey, why the fuck not? But from a business perspective, I'm kind of confused on it.
Yeah.
Well, what if they're going to use it in conjunction with each other? I mean, like you just said now, what if there's a few games that are just too big to actually do all the streaming and go, get to all these different places? I mean, you get these games which are like sometimes 15, 20 gigs. So what if those work in conjunction with Gaikai? You've got the server stream basis, but then if it's like a really, really huge game, maybe you can download that to the console, and then with the smaller games like PS2 and PS1, then you can also have that in the rental or via streaming.
Well, no, I think that's what the cloud base is going to get rid of, because with the cloud base, you're not really downloading it, because they have it playing on a server away from you. So really the only thing that you're receiving and giving is the video from the screen and then your button inputs. So that really minimizes how much you're getting, and it's not going to be a huge download at all. I mean, or at least what I'm thinking, it's not going to have a huge download at all, because you're going to be receiving the image from the screen, which is not a lot. It's megabytes. That's not even getting into gigabytes, I don't think, at that point. And then your issue commands. So I mean, really, the emulation.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, the only thing that would make sense for them business-wise is to put all of their effort into Gaikai, or not Gaikai, into PlayStation Now. But once again, I haven't seen the emulation. I don't know. This is just a rumor that we're talking about. So really, there's a lot more information. There's a lot of questions that we have, which once they're answered, I might think, okay, well, maybe this is worth it then. But initially, based on the rumor and what the information that we have, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Is it cool for the consumer?
We still need to wait. Yeah, we still need to see if there's anything more that's going to come out regarding it, though. Because I agree with you though with the Gaikai thing. I mean, they put so much effort into it. That was one of the biggest things that when they revealed the PS4.
Yeah,
so
it
doesn't make sense just to go backwards now and something else.
Yeah, when I learned that they purchased Gaikai, I was really excited, and then they started rolling out information about this PlayStation Now service, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm on board. Let's do this shit. And now they've got, oh no, we're gonna do local-based emulation. Well, what the fuck? What have you been telling me for the past 6 months that we're doing?
So I think
assholes. This is what happens when Jack Tredden leaves. See what happens?
Oh, so everything goes to shit. What the fuck? Jack, come back. Hashtag Jack, come back.
I think there are some decent business cases to do this, and a reason for Sony to not solely count on the Gaikai technology as a means to build out whatever customer base there is for people who want to explore legacy games. So I think there's a few things. So I think one thing is that it's a wedge, kind of like I think you mentioned before, Zach, that if you consider 100% of your customer base of people who own PlayStation 4s, you have to realize that you're not going to be able to access that entire customer base and get them onto a PlayStation Now
Yeah, absolutely.
right? Because people have bandwidth caps. Um,
Some people don't have internet. Some people
right.
just don't want the service. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. And there's going to be there's going to be a certain percentage who just don't like the concept, right? That it feels invasive. I know I don't. When I game, so look, I buy, I didn't buy, and I haven't bought a PlayStation 4 yet, but when I do, I'm not paying $400 for that stinking hardware so that you can then not use it and serve me a streamed game. If I'm going to do that, then sell me a very small, lightweight box that doesn't have that processing power and serve me that content that way.
Maybe they'll roll that out with the PlayStation Vita TV, whatever that is.
TV, yeah.
Maybe
right.
maybe it'll be included in that. That's something they could do.
Yeah, very possibly. But I guess my main point is that I think that there is a percentage of the customer base that will like this because they don't want to be dependent on streaming. I think if you're on cable internet for your service access, you have problems because that's not an asynchronous service. So when 15 people are on your trunk, you get lower total throughput than you do when 5 people are on your trunk. But most people go to cable because they want the higher bandwidth. DSL, is becoming less popular, but DSL is a synchronous service, and so it's actually better for gaming streaming. So the point is that when you try to do streaming, you have an incredibly wide variance in what the experience is going to be for people because you are not controlling that experience exclusively within your own technology.
I think another thing is that you said it before, wait, maybe it was Cassie who said it. Either you or Cassie said how the PlayStation 4 architecture isn't really conducive for emulating PlayStation 3 games locally. So another thing they could use, like the local-based for, is you can use it for that PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, and then have the PlayStation Now service for the PlayStation 3 games that there are a bunch of people that are still going to want to play this, even though they got their PlayStation 4 now, and they can play the newer games. And the older games, instead of making sure that they're emulated somewhere on the cloud and having to worry about that, you can just do those locally.
Yeah, that actually sounds like a great strategy to me to split it up that way. Cassie, what do you think?
I agree. I think that's a great idea.
I should work for Sony. What the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah, what are you doing? Be at Sony.
Oh, man.
You should take Jack's place.
Yeah, whew, man, you're setting me on a pedestal now. Easy. You're making me blush over here. Stop it.
Those are incredibly big shoes to fill.
Yeah, seriously, Jesus. I think I can sleep in one of those shoes. I don't think I can put even both feet in.
You and me can cuddle up in there.
Oh, yes, absolutely, Ryan. Get on over. We're going Jack Trenton's shoes. Let's do this shit. We'll clean them out first.
You off as a new Kevin Butler.
I love Kevin Butler.
Is it weird that when you said shoes now, I thought of Chim Pokemon?
No, because the shoe is the best Chim Pokemon. Come on now.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of said all that we have on this topic. So John, I was going to make an awesome segue that is perfect in every single way possible, but I have no clue what the fuck John was talking about before when he brought it up. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pretend like I don't know what he's about to say because I totally know what he's talking about. So, John, why don't you go ahead and introduce this subject that I know everything about in the world?
Sure, Zach. Well, basically last night we covered some information that was actually brought to our attention by Game Informer. It is about some retailer that is reselling game keys that they purchased from Humble Bundle. So if you guys are not quite familiar with what the Humble Bundle is, it is basically an online store for digital games that will put together bundles of games, ebooks and music sometimes, and they do not put a price on it. They allow you to pay whatever you want to get the bundle, starting at $1, and they even allow you to select how much money you're gonna give to the developer, how much money you're gonna give to the Humble Bundle itself, and how much money you're gonna give to charity.
Okay, so I'm gonna go on to like for everything. I'm gonna go on to Humble Bumble for everything from now on. I'm gonna give 90% of the money to the developer, 5% of the money to the site, and then 5% of the money to the charity. But once again, that money might be $1. So I mean, you might be getting 90 cents, 5 cents, and 5 cents. So I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is possible. The thing with the bundles that you can get in there is basically that you can get most of the games for $1, but there are gonna be 2 or 3 games that will require for you to pay a little bit more because
Absolutely
those
not.
are like
This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
those are like AAA games that
How dare
definitely
you
are
charge me
worth.
more than $1 for a video game? Fuck you.
So basically, what happens in here is that when you purchase a bundle in there, you are given the Steam keys for those games. What it is completely illegal to resell those keys. You're allowed to use them for yourself. You're allowed to gift them to a friend, but you cannot sell them.
Mm.
What happens is that this company, Seven Entertainment, which is the owner of different sites such as Fast to Play,
Oh, they probably got into a shitstorm, didn't they?
they basically started purchasing
Oh.
the keys from the Humble Bundle for, well, it is possible that they are paying the least amount of money that is possible to pay. They are reselling those.
You know
those
they
games.
are too. Holy shit. That is
So
quite the illegal practice there.
exactly. What happens in here is that Game Informer actually went ahead and did the whole research on this case, and they contacted different indie developers that are actually getting affected by this. Some developers actually already contacted them, and they actually did the test. They purchased one of their own games from this Fast to Play website, and they matched the Steam key that they were given, and they noticed that it is one of the keys that they used for the Humble Bundle. So
Ooh,
developers contacted the site
that must
in
have been
order
awkward
to,
as fuck.
yeah, in order to try and see if this company had some kind of partnership or anything that allowed them to sell those games. They contacted them. They asked for proof that they could do it. They didn't reply, but they removed those
So
games.
I bet they fucking didn't reply. They were like, all right, I'm gonna avoid this situation as long as I can.
Yep.
And when they basically contacted them back in order to ask if the fact that they were removing those games was
Because of the
basically
emails.
acknowledging that they were practicing some illegal action in there, they obviously didn't reply either.
Mm,
Wow.
So
This evokes this image of like a boiler room, right? With a bunch of flat, like fold-up tables laid out with dudes on laptops and like, phone cases on, like going in and buying Humble Bundles for like $1.
they
taking
see that
phone
email and they're
orders.
like, purge everything.
Right.
well, basically, in order to avoid this, is that the people at Humble Bundle changed the way in which they are actually giving those keys. Because before, well, what they did is that you purchase the bundle, and in your Humble Bundle account, you just go in there, you check your games, the games that you have purchased, and you are given the game key in there for you to copy and paste it into your Steam client. But they changed it in a way that you do not get that key written down, but you redeem the game directly with your Steam client.
So, real quick before we move on with the rest of this topic, do you guys want to hear about how my mind works a little bit? Just real quick, real quick. All right. So,
I'm scared.
yeah, you should be. Glassically said something about the guys, the computers in the boiler room, and they're all on their laptops with the fold-out tables and everything. That made me think of a video that I saw with these like hackers that would like tell you they were behind like a curtain, and these people would be like, oh yeah, this guy's a mind reader, and then they would give them all the information by hacking their bank accounts, their Facebook, and everything, and like they would like legitimately hack their stuff right there, and it was about how much information you're putting online and privacy and stuff, and they were like, yeah, this guy's a mind reader, and then I was thinking, yeah, this guy, it says he's reading your mind, but you're only giving him specific information, so how is that reading your mind? Maybe you're not thinking about that information, so that's not really reading your mind. But then I was like, well, your mind is really big. It holds every single memory that you've ever had in your entire life, all of your skills, every part of your being. So maybe mind reading powers have been completely bullshit for this past, like, however long people have been thinking about reading minds. And really what it is you're just looking into somebody's mind, but you can't see what they're thinking about in that moment. You can only see like specific instances of a memory or what your favorite color is or your preferences, whatnot. It's not necessarily what you're thinking at that moment. And then I was like, mind reading powers have been completely misused in comics this whole time. And then I was like, holy shit, John's still talking. Maybe I should start paying attention again.
How did we switch from gaming to like the inner workings of Darren Brown?
That's how my fucking mind works. I'm sorry. No, but I went through all of those thoughts within like 5 seconds, and I was like, wait, okay, I need to get back to this gaming conversation. Sorry.
So it's safe to say you only have one gear. Just go forward. There's like no fucking balance with you.
I have zero multitasking. Zero multitasking. It is like I can either listen to you or think about what I'm thinking, and most of the time I think about what I'm thinking. I was like,
so Zach, here's something to blow your mind. The question is, was that whole train of thought your own original thought, or did I incept it while you were listening to John?
Okay, fuck you for that. Fuck you for that. Why would you make me question my own mind? He's sitting there making faces at me like, I know what you're thinking about. Yeah, go ahead, keep going. Inception, motherfucker.
He is the puppet master.
I'm a little bit weirded out right now. Okay, yeah, but back to the topic. That is some sketchy boiler room, fold-out table hacker shit going on there. And I feel like that company went about it a little bit wrong. I think that instead of not responding to the no one gives a shit about BioShock. Shut the fuck up. So
you have messed with the wrong people now.
But I feel like they went about that in the wrong way. I feel like if they had just messaged them back and were like, oh shit, I didn't even realize, I'm sorry. Please don't sue my ass to fucking grindstone. Like, hell, like I'm sorry. Like, and apologize and we're like upfront about it. Everything would be okay. But now they have all these game developers and shit on their asses pretty much. Like, they're about to get sued into the fucking ground.
Yeah, I think you're right. They should have just played it stupid.
That's it. There you go. I mean, I was exactly. It's all. Hey, that's what it is. Do you guys agree with that, or did they take the right approach by not saying anything and just like, all right, fuck it, take him down.
Well, basically, they are still providing a platform for different people to resell this kind of keys, because one of the sites that they own is basically for that. People go in there and they put games that they have on sale for others to purchase them, and they are allowing that community to resell games that they purchased through the Humble Bundle. There are different, like, quite ridiculous prices in there. For example, one of the games that are in there, Frozen Synapse, that is normally you can get it for $24.99 through Steam. you can get it in their site in Fast to Play and some other sites from them for $6.
That's pretty insane. That's actually like that's
There
like
are
Steam
games that
sale level.
level illegal.
Yeah, level illegal. What? How dare you? Nothing illegal has ever happened on the internet. Come on. Jeez.
There are basically games that normally go for $20 being sold for $1.
That's. Whew. I would be if I was a game developer. I'd be fucking furious because they're not receiving like any of that shit. Like they're like.
Exactly.
I would be pissed.
Yeah.
And actually, speaking of game developers,
torches and pitchforks and shit.
yeah, right.
Place down.
But speaking of game developers, one of my favorite developers, Naughty Dog, who made the Uncharted series and Jak and Daxter and The Last of Us, their director of the Uncharted director actually stepped down, and after this is following the news of Amy Hennig leaving, the creative director for the game. So then when the actual director steps down and is going over to Riot Games now, like what the fuck is going on at Naughty Dog?
Let me just tell you that.
Let me tell you.
I have a very bad feeling that, like, you know how like things can only be good for so long, and Naughty Dog's been great for like a while. I feel like something bad.
Whoa. Great forever.
I don't. I feel like something really shady. Like they still.
Actually, I agree with Cassie on that as well. With Amy Hennig leaving, then I thought, oh, okay, well, if she's leaving, it's fine. Everyone else is still there. But then once Justin left, this red flag went off my head, going like, well, what the fuck's going on now?
Exactly, and
Seriously?
we still don't know why Amy left, and I feel really.
And we need to keep in mind that these two are not the only ones that left, because God of War 3 creative director, he also left Sony Santa Monica.
Well, that's a different Sony studio. We're talking about Naughty Dog. Fuck Santa Monica.
Still, there are quite a lot of layoffs going on in the Sony worldwide studios.
Yeah.
See,
Jack Trent leaves. The layoffs all over the place in UK. There were 3 studios now that all got affected by layoffs, and now Justin Richmond. Come on, what the fuck?
all right. So what I think, and once again, this is just my opinion, but I think that Jack Tretton left. He was like the first one to leave. Like Amy Hennig got ousted, or she left after Jack. Right? Am I right? Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
So Jack Tretton left first. That departure totally makes sense for me because he was there from the beginning of the PlayStation days, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, oversaw all those launches, oversees the PlayStation 4 launch. PlayStation 4 launch, hugely successful.
Yeah.
That's when you want to go out. You want to go out on a high note. He's getting ready to start the next phase in his career, or so he says. He left at a time that I felt was appropriate. I think he left it at the right time.
Yeah.
But fuck my cat. Seriously, stop it. Anyway, that's actually my roommate's girlfriend's cat. That's not even my cat.
Well,
But,
I love it.
she's not usually here, but just ignore her. I'm just gonna.
No.
So I feel like his departure was correctly timed. Now the other studios, Santa Monica, Amy Hennig, I'm not gonna talk about real quick. I'm gonna put her off to the side. Put a pin in that. But I feel like the Santa Monica layoffs and all these different layoffs in the companies, those I feel like are complete coincidences. I want to say, like, that's not really the word I'm looking for, because it is all because of one reason, and I feel like that reason is that it's the end of the fiscal year, and this is the time of year where you always see video game companies ramping down production. If they're they're just finishing up games for the holidays, whatnot. That's when they lay a bunch of people off. Once they get a new game, once they get a new platform they're working on, then they get a bunch of people, hire back a bunch of people. And with Santa Monica, that especially makes sense because they canceled one of their unannounced games. They said that they did. So, of course, they're going to lay a bunch of people off. They have one less game. And while Naughty Dog is usually immune to this, Naughty Dog is usually a big enough studio that makes enough money where they keep a full-time staff. They don't have people working just for specific games. They usually keep a full-time staff. So I feel like that is normal. I don't feel like that has any bearing on the Sony studios in general, the layoffs rather. Now, the Naughty Dog thing, this particular instance, this is kind of looking, while the layoffs in general don't look bad on a particular studio, these particular set of layoffs at their particular times look bad on Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
You go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. I've been talking for a while.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna partially disagree with you. Not necessarily disagree, but so I think you were going on this track. I think the layoffs and the departures are two completely separate, discrete events.
Yes.
I agree with you on the part that the layoff part is cyclical. I don't think it's tied as firmly to the fiscal year. I think it's predominantly tied to game releases and, like you mentioned, the game cancellation. So
yeah.
I think what's incorrect is you'll sometimes see the media and the internet jumping at somebody leaving right after a really big game ships, and just failing to realize that that's just natural. You ship a big blockbuster.
That's part of the industry, like.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the one data point that I'll throw out, although I do not think that there's any connection, is Sony Santa Monica is obviously a first-party studio. Naughty Dog is also a first-party studio for Sony. So you have some pretty significant defections of key high-level staff from first-party studios. And actually, both of those studios are co-located in Santa Monica. Not co-located. They're in the same city.
Yeah, we know what you meant.
Yeah. So.
See, I feel like the Santa Monica studios. I feel like I was saying, I think it's got to be because they canceled one of their unannounced games, whether that was God of War 4 or another new title that they were going on. We don't know, but it still remains to be seen. But I feel like that was for the Santa Monica, and then the Naughty Dog, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but I think,
I think it's clear.
What's your take on... Oh, sorry.
I'll just I think there is something going on at Naughty Dog. I don't know what it is, personality conflict or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
What do you guys think, though, then? Like, okay, we know that some things are unrelated, but when you guys are saying that after each new game is finished and it's all been shipped out, layoffs are natural, that's part of the industry, I agree with you, but then you get things like the UK studio that was laid off, Evolution, that is working on Drive Club, which got delayed, and then there are layoffs.
I think it was because of that game. I think that they delayed it, right? First the delay, and then a couple. I'm not sure. I think it was either a month or maybe a couple of weeks, or sometime shortly after announcing that it was getting delayed, that it was announced that they were going back to the drawing board. So there was something seriously wrong with that game, and they probably laid a bunch of people off to get new talent in to go with a different direction, is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
But with the Naughty Dog thing, it's like, sorry, I don't mean to keep going back to this, but it's like I feel like with the Naughty Dog thing, it's like you have Amy Hennig who she left, or a lot of people said that she was ousted, whatnot. They were said that was not accurate, and that Neil Druckmann had nothing to do with it, and the other dude, I can't remember his name, but they had nothing to do with it. So she left on her own terms, so she left. And then we're like, all right, well, I guess people leave sometimes. Maybe she didn't like the direction of the game, or maybe she was going off for different business reasons. Maybe she had a new idea to work on. Who knows? Okay, that's fine. Then you got freaking Justin, thank you. Jesus. So then you got Home Slice leaving, and it's like, all right, so they finished Uncharted, they finished The Last of Us. Supposedly they have two separate teams that may be working on The Last of Us 2. You have Uncharted 4 that was announced it's going to be coming out for the PlayStation 4. That was announced. That's supposed to be working on. That's supposed to be being worked on. And then they announced The Last of Us movie that Neil Druckmann is working on.
Yep.
So don't bring it up. Cassie's just gonna hate on it. No.
Well, no. What I'm saying is that you have three high-level, extremely important releases that you're trying to work along, or productions that they're doing that's being spread thin. And I know that Naughty Dog isn't just a company with high-level people. That's not all there is. But with they're supposed to have divisions up there. you got Neil Druckmann working on The Last of Us 2 and The Last of Us movie. Supposedly, I'm just I'm speculating that it's The Last of Us 2, but he's working on something as well as the movie. And then you've got Amy Hennig, who is the creative director, and then Justin, who is the game director, both leaving from they were both from the Uncharted side of things. So who has the vision for that game? What is the vision? And I'm really worried about Uncharted 4. The Last of Us, not so much, but Uncharted 4, holy shit.
I'm losing sleep over this. If Uncharted 4 comes out and is bad...
Cassie likes video games.
I like video games. I'm gonna cry if it's bad. You remember when the report came out when Amy Hennig left that inside sources at Naughty Dog said that they forced her out?
Yeah.
They came and they denied that or whatever, but I still have some kind of feeling that maybe there was a conflict with, maybe somebody wanted a story to go a certain way, and Amy wanted the story to go a different way, and they...
See, I thought about that too, but then I was like, well, the two people that they supposedly were saying that ousted Amy, they're in a completely separate department. They work on different games, so...
It may not have been them at all, but maybe someone else.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I just feel like maybe there was some kind of conflict.
Somebody forced her out. Whether it was Neil Druckmann or not, it doesn't matter. Somebody... Okay,
Hey, Cassie,
I see what you're saying.
What if Amy and Justin left because Naughty Dog said yes to the Last of Us movie? Wouldn't that make you happy?
Oh my god.
That would make you happy? What the fuck is wrong with you?
That would make me cry.
That's awful. You're terrible, Ryan. You're a bad person.
Oh, no.
But yeah, it's like, you see Amy Hennig leave, and you're like, okay, that's coincidence, I guess, blah, blah, blah. And then you see Justin leave, and you're like, okay, one is the epicenter, two is a coincidence, 3 is a pattern. So I'm really expecting somebody to keep going, and if somebody else leaves, you've got a pattern going on there. Yeah. So right now I'm still holding out hope that it's coincidence based on that cycle, but if one more person leaves, all right, you're starting to see a pattern there,
Yeah.
So the next thing you'll know, Michael Bay joins Naughty Dog as a creative director.
All right, Ryan, get on the fucking podcast. I'm done with these ideas.
So here's my question, and Cassie, you may want to put earmuffs on for this. The big basic question is, what does it matter? And what I mean by that is, Uncharted 4, not a launch window game. I don't even know that it arrives in time to really make a significant difference in how many units Sony is moving of the PlayStation 4. They appear to be moving...
Excuse me? Excuse you? It's like...
they appear to be moving a sufficient number of units that they are not dependent upon Uncharted 4 to achieve any type of critical mass. And
I think that's what the good thing about PlayStation is, that they have a bunch of first-party studios that all operate semi-independently, and they can all create these titles. You don't have one... And same thing with Microsoft. I'm not saying that it's different. Same thing with Microsoft, same thing with Sony. Both companies have all these studios that there is no such thing as a system seller anymore. It's a collection of games at this point.
I think I agree with your conclusion, maybe not necessarily all the rationale. And here's the other thing about Sony. Looking at the PlayStation 3 history, Sony exclusives are not big sales numbers, right?
Killzone Shadowfall? What?
How many units of Killzone Shadowfall were sold in comparison to Microsoft?
2/3 of the people that own PlayStation 4s own that. And it's a PlayStation 4 exclusive, so you got to think.
And you have to keep in mind also what happened with Infamous Second Son, because with its launch, just in the UK, the PS4 sales went up 106%.
Yeah. So while that's not a lot in the long run, like you're saying, I agree with you that it's not a big deal in the long run. But at the time of the release of those particular games, it's going to up sales for a short amount of time.
Yeah, I agree. That's because there's nothing on the PlayStation 4 right now.
That's also a good point. So with the launch of Infamous or even Killzone, like I was saying, 2/3 of the people that own PlayStation 4s own Killzone. That's because there's really nothing else out, is what you're saying. That makes sense.
So what?
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, no, go ahead, Cassie.
No, I was just gonna say, do you think that's the reason they're going to put Last of Us on the PS4 is because they're trying to just get more games out so people have an excuse to use their PlayStation 4.
Yeah, both of those companies for both of those consoles need to do something because there's less than, in my mind, there's less than 20 games of great quality and great significance and any importance to play on both of those consoles, and it's 4 months after launch. And
see, I think the good thing that Sony has, I think the good thing that Sony has going for it is that the Xbox is in the same boat. I mean, it's not like they have a ton of exclusives either. The library for each of these consoles, and it's been, repeated over and over by all these different game sites, that there is not a lot of games you can currently play right now. And I think that for that reason, they're not going to rush out an Uncharted game or a God of War game because you want quality titles. If you rush out all these exclusives, blah blah, blah, and they're crap, they're not going to move units, and that's what exclusives are supposed to do.
Right. So the argument I'm making in terms of the importance of the story about Naughty Dog is that exclusives are not as important to the PlayStation console in terms of sales numbers. I shouldn't say that. Exclusives have not.
It's short term. It's short term.
Exclusives have not contributed as heavily to the success of the PlayStation platform as they have contributed to Microsoft's success. I think that what's critical for Sony in this generation to be competitive is the things that they are already doing, which is, number one, they need to achieve parity with Microsoft in cross-platform third-party title releases and quality. Right? What they've got to kill this generation is they've got to get the Call of Duties and all the other games that are cross-platform and get them delivered and available on the PlayStation at the same time with the same graphical fidelity that they release on Microsoft, and not have stories like, oh, Skyrim on PlayStation 3 has memory problems, the version that's on the Xbox does not, right? Yeah. Mass Effect has, Fallout, all these cross-platform titles on the PlayStation during the PlayStation 3 generation typically had some serious bugs and defects that made a clear quality delta between the version that was on the PlayStation versus the version that was on the 360. So that, I think that's key to their strategy and what they're also doing with indie games. So my point is that I think, whether or not this story is a big deal, I think hangs heavily on how important it is to the Sony strategy. I think Sony's doing the things that they need to do by following those other two prongs, and I think that the success or failure of Uncharted 4 in reality has less significance to the success of the PlayStation 4.
See, I agree with you to like a point on that. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that when you're talking about the exclusives, they don't matter as much to Sony as they do to Microsoft.
And they don't contribute as much to their success.
Yeah. I can see what you're saying with that situation, but I mean, when you think of exclusives, a lot of the time you do think of the Gears of Wars and the Halo, especially for Microsoft, because they're both huge titles. But I feel like you're underselling how much exclusives mean to the PlayStation, because they do mean quite a bit. I mean,
I think so too.
Infamous and Infamous 2 did amazingly. The Uncharted series is just unprecedented. Those are amazing games for the PlayStation, and I feel like those particular games, those two games in general, those two franchises in general, they moved units as much as Halo and Gears of War. They were not so much Infamous, but because that's kind of like, if you already own a PlayStation, you got Infamous, but Uncharted definitely moved PlayStation 3s, and I think that with the third-party studios, like you're saying, how Skyrim was having problems running and everything like that, and the what was the other game that you brought up? It was Skyrim and Mass Effect.
I know Mafia 2, even though you didn't say that, but that was horrible.
Sure, yeah, Mafia 2, Mass Effect, like you were saying, was having the problems, whatnot. I think because third-party games were having problems on the PlayStation, that would mean that the exclusives are what really matters to the PlayStation, because, okay, well, if I get a third-party game on PlayStation, it may have problems. On the PlayStation 3, it may have problems. I don't know. So let's make the exclusives as best we can, and people will buy it for those. And like, the quality of the PlayStation exclusives is better than the quality of the Xbox exclusives because the PlayStation 3 had more power. It has more capability. It is a lot harder to code for, and nobody wants to code for it because it's fucking difficult. But it does have more raw potential than the Xbox, and that's why when you see games like Uncharted and The Last of Us and Infamous and everything, they're pushing the limits of what the PlayStation 3 has to have, and those look and play better than whatever Microsoft can come up with because they have more raw potential.
I will yield the floor to the young lady from Poppycock Reviews because everybody in the chat is telling us to get off this topic and move on.
Oh, really? I didn't even see it.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I guess we can continue that conversation because I feel like there's more to be said there at another date. But I guess when the next time an exclusive comes up, we can talk about it because I feel like there's a lot more to be said there.
Oh no, Zach, this is on. We're picking this back up next time we get the chance.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so we'll be picking this back up next time.
A whole separate podcast just about that.
I feel like we could too. I feel like there's a lot to say about exclusives and Microsoft and Sony and I'll probably get called a fanboy whatnot. It's just
there are actually quite a lot of topics right now that could even take us hours just to even explore, you know?
Yeah, like this Assassin's Creed thing that I was talking about earlier. Well, is that the next topic, or do you want to talk about BioShock real quick? Because I know Cassie wants to talk about BioShock. She'll say 3 words on it, and then we can move on to the next topic. So why don't we go ahead and talk about that?
Hey.
Go ahead, Cassie. Tell us about BioShock. Give me your 3 sentences.
Okay, so I feel like this week, BioShock Infinite Burial at Sea Episode 2 came out, and I kind of feel like a lot of people maybe overlooked it and kind of forgot that it was released. And it was, I really enjoyed Episode 1. I thought it was great. It was a little short, but, you know, and I thought that was great. And then last night I completed Episode 2, and I was like, wow, this is like way better than Episode 1 was. If you played Episode 1 and you enjoyed it, at least somewhat, just please play Episode 2. It is incredible. I'm about to write a review of it. Like I said, I beat it. It was like 4 a.m. last night. I stayed up, and I couldn't stop playing it. The story is absolutely incredible. If you like the original BioShock, obviously you need to play the original BioShock, and you need to play Infinite in order to understand. But one of the cool things about it was that in Episode 2 they have a little thing where you can click on, it says previously, and then you choose that, and it shows you like some of the events from the original BioShock to kind of like catch you up on the story, which I thought was pretty cool, since it came out in 2007. So because BioShock is so detailed and so elaborate that you kind of forget about some characters and stuff. But yeah, it is incredible. I cannot recommend it enough. I think they did a great job, and I'm just so like, I think now that Irrational is gone, or whatever is happening with them, and they're going to do a new BioShock that 2K is probably going to take over, or 2K is going to take over. If 2K ruins BioShock, which some people think is going to happen, who knows what's going to happen. I think this was a good last thing for Rapture and for BioShock and everything.
To wrap it up and everything.
To wrap it up, yeah. I think it was...
Something that might go on topic is that actually Irrational Games is right now allowing people to download 3 of the tracks from Burial at Sea directly from their website. We have actually talked about it on one post earlier today. You can go ahead and download 3 of the songs that play on this DLC.
Did anybody else play BioShock? Or sorry, go ahead.
Cassie, I just had a few questions for you. So number one, what platform did you play this on?
I played it on PlayStation 3.
On PlayStation 3. Okay, and then the second question was, how many hours of gameplay was it?
Well, I didn't exactly look at an exact number, but from what I think it was. God, I mean, you know me, I kind of do a lot of exploring in BioShock and take my time. But if you were just gonna go straight to the objective or whatever, I'd probably say about 3 hours.
Okay, and is that comparable to the Episode 1 DLC?
Episode 1 was much shorter. I think it took me about an hour and a half to complete Episode 1. I remember just kind of being over pretty quickly and kind of cut off kind of fast. But
was this DLC $15 or how much was it?
I can't answer that. I had the season pass. I'm really not sure. I believe it is $15.
Yeah, I want to say it's either 15 or 20, but
yeah, I bought the season pass like way back when, so I don't exactly remember, but
see, I've always thought about like the 15 or let's say it's 20. Let's just go on the high end. A $20 price point for 3 hours, like you were saying. But then I'm thinking like, all right, well, 20 times 3, and then 3 times 3, you get $60 for a 9-hour game. And I've played 9-hour games and paid $60 for them, and I love the game. So it's really hard for DLC because it doesn't feel like a lot, and it's like, oh man, it's $20. Like it's not. I only get 3 hours out of it, but that's actually a good amount of time. I feel like.
I think it's about the quality of it, too.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Like Journey. I mean, look at Journey and how great that was and how successful that was.
Journey was a terrible game. Nobody liked that game.
Oh, shut up! The game was like 2 hours long though, like if that, and it was $15. So.
Yeah, that DLC is $15 on Steam right now, so I reckon it's the same on PlayStation. The last thing I wanted to ask you, Cassie, I think maybe you partially answered this, but so arguably the Metal Gear Solid franchise has a problem where it's not very friendly to newcomers, right? I mean, there's not a good place in Metal Gear to just come in kind of from sideways.
It's like Dark Souls.
Yeah. Yeah, so the whole point of that franchise at this point is you really need the history for it to really matter to you. Do you think BioShock is starting to get itself into that zone, or do you feel it's still open enough where...
Like, if you never played the first 2 BioShocks,
it is a problem. It is an issue. I mean, I saw that GamersSphere did an article, someone over there wrote an article, like, things you need to, like, refresh on before you play Barrel Sea Episode 2, because, like, if you haven't played the first one and you haven't played Infinite, I mean, you can't. It's not going to make any sense, and that is a problem. I mean, you're not going to get newcomers to BioShock that are going to jump in and play.
Well, is that a problem though? Because I mean, DLC is for somebody who's played the game, so.
Yeah, well, it's not just Infinite they need to play. They also need to play.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is that it's like Infinite. You have to have played Infinite to get the DLC. I mean, you have to play Infinite to really get the DLC. So you're supposed to, but then they take it a step further, and you have had to have played BioShock before. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because it's like it's more of a service to the fans of the games.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see where if it was advertised as okay, you should play these 2 games, but if it were if it's just like given out and it's like, oh yeah, you played Infinite, play this. It's like, well, I don't really get it, so why'd you make me play this? I don't care, I got your $15, sucker.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's really marketed to, like, somebody who's new to the thing. I mean, it's
not marketed to new people. I mean, I feel like that's...
Well, the point of my question now is, okay, so now what happens when, what happens when BioShock Infinite 2 launches? My question is it's a matter of, what's going on with the accessibility of the franchise? Is it starting to get itself into that Metal Gear Solid territory where you're going to start getting decreasing numbers of customer base of people who are willing to buy into the franchise because they feel like they can't get into it if they don't have all that past history to bring along with them?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what route they go with it. Like, even, like, Infinite, I know a lot of people that played Infinite and didn't play the original BioShock, and it's still a great game. I mean, yeah, there are some things that, especially with the ending, that you're not going to fully grasp, but you could easily, read about that on Wikipedia real quick if you want.
No, see, I feel like the ending of Infinite is, like, I feel like that's totally fine. If you've never played either of the first BioShocks, you can get the ending just fine.
You can get it. I just think maybe
like there's a couple things there are a couple instances in Infinite where if you didn't play the first BioShocks, you wouldn't necessarily get the reference, but it wouldn't detract from the experience because you wouldn't know anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like you wouldn't understand anything if you didn't play the...
Oh, yeah. It's not like... I mean, you could definitely play Infinite if you haven't played the original BioShock. So if they go that route, with the next BioShock game, which is hopefully good.
If they make... That's a huge if right there. That's a big if.
Yeah. I'm worried.
But I'm hoping that with the like the Metal Gear Solid thing in the and making it so like it's hard for newcomers. I mean, it's not necessarily they did that on purpose, but it is kind of, if you're a newcomer to Metal Gear, it's kind of hard to get into.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that with BioShock, it's like this is just DLC. It's not the main story, so it might just be for this DLC. It might not be reflective over the whole series. I'm hoping.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I would rather not have to have played every single piece of DLC. Because I don't play DLC. That's just I don't really like DLC a lot. If it's really good, I'll play it, but I don't really play DLC. So if I had to have played DLC to get something, I mean, if I know beforehand, I will go back and play it, but I'm not gonna be happy about it. It's like I'd rather have just from the game. The game that you released, this is the sequel based on the last game. That's as far as I'll go.
Yeah. So the point of this is that these are things that are dependent upon the craft of storytelling, right? Which kind of ties back to what we were talking about with the departure of Hennig at Naughty Dog, and my question about whether does it matter, and our conversation that we had last week about the guys who were saying that narrative and story is not important. So what happened with Metal Gear Solid, you're right, Zach, didn't happen deliberately. What happened with it is because there wasn't a deliberate effort to keep it from happening.
Yeah.
Right? And when you talk about, and I think you read comics too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the historical problem with the comic book industry, which is how do you string together this opus of monthly issues, but then also create breakpoints where you can get new readers in without requiring them to have read the past 12 months worth of issues.
Comic books kind of came up with an interesting way to do that in making.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Go ahead, say it.
Oh, I'm gonna say it. You might be mad. They kind of solved the issue, right, wrong, or indifferent. They kind of solved the issue by splitting up the segments. So it's like you have different story arcs starting like, okay, this is Iron Man number 1 through 15. That story arc is over. Next one, and then they go from there. Okay, that's kind of how they solved it.
I thought you were about to start talking about 0 issues or 0.1 issues.
Oh, don't, God, jeez, don't fucking blasphemy. Don't even. Jesus, I'd burn those things.
So at any rate, I was just bringing it up because I think it relates to some of the stories we've talked about this podcast in the last couple of podcasts.
Definitely.
Particularly these franchises that we're now seeing are bridging, 2 generations of consoles or sometimes 3 generations of consoles is, that storytelling and the retention of the talent, that departed Naughty Dog recently does start to become more important when you have to start thinking about how do I encapsulate these stories so that the people who stick with it feel rewarded, right? Because that's the whole reward of sticking with a television series, a comic book series, a movie sequels, whatever, is that you understand the whole bridge.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. That's perfectly. I love the comic book analogy too, because it's like you kind of saw that with Infamous. It has nothing to do with the first 2 games, and one of the biggest problems that I had with it that I couldn't really put into my review because it's a standalone game was that it didn't have enough tie to the previous 2 games. So I'm a huge Infamous fan, didn't really feel like I needed I didn't need to play, and you shouldn't need to play the first 2 games necessarily to get the game, but there was almost no reference whatsoever. There were like 1 or 2 here or there, but it was nowhere near it wasn't it's supposed to be a separate story, but it wasn't tied to anything. Like everything in Empire City and in New Marais, that shit could have never happened. I never could have played it and totally been fine with Infamous Second Son, but.
Right, so you get 0 emotional return on investment for playing.
Exactly, and that's what pisses people off, and it's hard to tie it together. And it's like kind of what you were saying with Amy Hennig, like that's going to be really hard to tie together when you don't have the creative vision for a fucking game to tie that together. Like now you've got to find somebody else to figure out how to tie this shit together.
I mean, she wrote the stories, like who's gonna write it, like. And
then you've got the creative director and the game director leaving, like. I'm really worried about Uncharted, guys.
I'm cry, like.
You know what?
Well,
I got faith in Naughty Dog.
Actually, it was said that Uncharted was not gonna get affected at all by that.
Do you believe that?
Bullshit.
Do you really believe that? Come on. Even from an optimistic standpoint, I'm 100% optimist. I'm always optimistic. But do you really believe that shit? Come on now.
If you're changing a writer and a creative director and a game director. I mean, maybe the game will still be good, but it's...
No, it's not necessarily the game's going to be bad now, but it's going to affect it hardcore.
Exactly.
But I think that's about, we're supposed to be wrapping up 9 minutes ago, so we're going to we're gonna go ahead and stop the conversation there because we're getting a little bit. We can keep going for days, like we were saying. All these topics, we can keep going for days on all these. So we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping up. But I'd like to thank you guys all for watching, joining in to the 5th installment of the GamerSphere / Poppycock podcast. And I'd also like to take this time to thank our sponsor once again, that Allkey Shop, for sponsoring us this episode. That's ALLKEYSHOP.com. They're our sponsor this week. Huge shout out to them. Thank you guys so much. But that's going to be it for this episode. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to tune in next week for the next installment of the Poppycock and GamerSphere podcast. So thank you guys for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.